Yo, okay, rocking. Okay, it's launching time. It's launching time. All aboard for Mars. It's on.
Oh, it's on?
Yeah, yeah.
It's doing it.
Well, you will. It's just, yeah, anyway. I'm so used to recording myself. So I just love recording myself. We're just waiting for a few more people to arrive.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, we've turned on the overhead air cons. That's good. I could feel the coolness. Oh, he'll wake up when he's ready. Oh, there he is, see? There you go. So while we're waiting for people to arrive, so just to let you know, I won't be chasing you up to bring you back. And if you're not here, you're not here, and that's fine. Yeah. But I will try to be more definite about starting times, finishing times, and not so wishy-washy as I was a moment ago. One of the interesting things, well, is it interesting? I find it interesting anyway. One of the things that Feldenkrais says on the very first day of the training program that he ran in Amherst, he tells the group after the first lesson, he says, I could organize this training program in a variety of different ways. One way is to organize it so that the lessons suit each one of your needs. He says that's one way of organizing the materials. Look around the room and then choose the lessons according to the abilities in the room. And he says in that way that would be a worthwhile way to do it, but that would require a really long training program. And then he says there's another way of organizing lessons, and that is in regards to very particular actions. So Glenn a moment ago was doing handstands, so we could organize a training to do each segment. We're looking at a very specific action, and that's how we'll do each segment. And then there's another way of organising a training, and can you see it's all related to what you're able to do in terms of your movement. And then there's a third way of organising trainings, and that is according to the way that the body is designed. So you could run a series of lessons that all have to do with bending the body forwards, and then you could do a series of lessons all having to do with bending the body backwards. and then sideways and that side, and then twisting and then breathing and so on and so on. So there's all sorts of different ways of organising the training. And this week, I guess what I'm playing around with is I have definite materials there, but I'm pacing them so that each one of you can find your way in. Because as the training goes on, what you'll find is the lessons are already organised around particular themes, and eventually you pace yourself to the lessons. Yeah? But this week, I'm kind of pacing the lessons to you, but still with a definite content. So when you hear that invitation, make yourself comfortable, consider it a real invitation. Don't struggle in discomfort. And when you hear the invitation, do something to make it easier for yourself. Once again, it's a real invitation. Don't think it's just this throw-off line. It's not. Yeah? So this next little bit is about exactly that. How do you make yourself comfortable? How do you make it possible to do something? And we'll do it in 2 parts. Yeah. So the first part we'll treat as an ATM, and then we'll go into a bit of partner work with each other. Yeah? All right. So let's start off the usual way, how habitual. Please lie on your back. And when you're lying on your back, once again, bring yourself into that state where you know you can pay attention to yourself, and your attention is alert, crisp, clear. And if you had have seen the gestures I was doing, these little chopping movements there, crisp, clear attention. Whether it's narrowly focused or whether it's broadly focused, it doesn't matter. It's still crisp, clear attention. And as you're paying attention, recall or ask yourself, at the end of the lesson before lunch, how did you feel? What was it that you experienced in yourself after that lesson? That was an after effect of the lesson, not an after effect of something that you did this morning or the day before. What was that after effect? And then, how long did that after effect last? And this is a little bit of an ambush question. It would have been better to ask you this question before you headed off into lunch. How long does this after effect last? When do you notice that it's gone, disappeared, evaporated, or integrated into your state? All right. Now, bring your attention to your breathing, the in-breath, the out-breath. Notice how your breathing changes your contact with the floor. And in the easiest way, form the intention to come up to sitting, and then when you're ready, do it. Come up to sitting. Now sit in such a way that your left heel is somewhere near your left buttock and the right sole of your foot is somewhere near your left knee. Okay. And then make yourself comfortable here. And if that means that you go at the back and collect a towel from one of the little containers and put that underneath your bottom, you do that. Do whatever it takes to make yourself comfortable here. Because sometimes just a little bit of height from the ground can make a big difference in how your back is and how your breathing is. So I noticed in the previous ATM some of you were exploring the movement of the arm in this position, so please find a way to wrap your arm around the back of your head, your right arm, and make contact with the left-hand side of your face. Go back and forward a few times. Now eventually, today or the day after or next week or in the months to come, you're aiming to hold the chin in your hand. But for the moment, only go as far as it's easy, where you don't have to turn your head excessively. So turning your head a little bit is okay, yeah? A little bit, but excessively, not so much. So track your breathing. Is your breathing as free as it was before you put your hand there? And that's what you're aiming for the new position, to enable your breathing to be as easy and free as it was in the previous position without the hand there. Now the next time that you have your arm around your head and you're holding some part or touching some part of the left side of your face, stay there. And now put your left hand on the floor somewhere in front of you. And then remove it again. Go back and forth between those positions and ask yourself, can I reach the floor easily? If you can't reach the floor easily, bring the floor to you. Take one of the little blue mats, put it in front of you, or wrap a towel, so that you can actually lean on something freely. Can you see that we're always constructing a situation where you can say or you can feel in yourself, oh, I can do this. This feels fine. Yep. That's what you share with your clients. Okay, so leave your left hand on the floor in front. And now, form the intention of bringing your right elbow towards the floor in front of your leg, your right leg. And then come back and do that many, many times. Preferably with a little bit of a gap between each repetition. It's almost like you're giving yourself a moment to refresh. Now, go back and forth many, many times and look for a place to have your left hand where you feel it's working for you. That it's not a hindrance, that it helps. So where can that left hand be that would allow you to go down and come up again without your breathing stopping, without the breathing changing quality? Oh, some of you are starting to turn your trunk. That's cool. She goes, yeah? What is it? But some aren't. So consider the possibilities. Notice how wide open the intention is. The intention is to bring the elbow towards the floor somewhere in front of that left leg. It doesn't specify how to do it.
The left leg?
Oh, right leg, sorry. You can see it's going to be a left-right day today. All right. Yeah. So what are you doing? You're experimenting. What pathway, what trajectory can that right elbow take that would allow me to bring the elbow towards the floor? That's it. It doesn't have to be a direct path initially. And this is, continue doing what you're doing, and I'll just talk anyway. You get used to it. I'll just talk anyway. So this is the initial, this is what's interesting about learning. When you learn anything, the first thing that you do is never the final skill, ever. Yeah, the end point skill is going to be radically different to what you're doing now. So start off doing what you can do and let it develop. And to let you know, this is all going to be on the same side, so don't tire yourself out. Take a rest on your back, please. I can see some people pausing already. Years and years and years ago, I think when second year I graduated or something like that, I got invited to do a presentation for a bunch of corporate people. It was quite scary. Anyway, my brief was to help them improve their productivity and creativity. Okay. Through awareness through movement, right? So I went in there, and we introduced ourselves, and I asked them all to stand up, and they all stood up, and then I said to them, when I give you the next instruction, do what the instruction you think it is. So I said to them, okay, touch your toes. And all, I don't know, 30 of them or so did exactly what you would see in a gym. They would kept their knees straight and they all touched their toes, and none of them could touch their toes. Most of the executives were in their 40s. None of them could touch their toes. And we did this 5 times. And each time I said to them, listen to the instruction, touch your toes. Each time, exactly the same, again and again and again. And at the end of the 5th, I said, look up here. And I lifted a foot and I touched my toe. I said, is that touching your toes? They said, yes. And then I sat on the floor and I touched my toes. And I said, is that touching my toes? And they said, yes. I said, well, how many ways can you touch your toes? Well, clink, the penny dropped. So performing an intention is performing an intention. Unless it's really tightly specified, the field is completely open to you. So roll up to sitting. sit in that asymmetrical leg position again. The right foot forward, the right leg forward, the left leg tucked around behind. And even in this position, there's a lot of play. How far where you have that right foot, where that left heel is behind you. Yeah, in everything there's play. So make yourself comfortable. And wrap your right arm around behind your head. Make that comfortable. Place your left hand on the floor somewhere in front of you and start to intend to put that right elbow on the floor somewhere in front. Somewhere, somewhere, somewhere over the rainbow. What's the next line? Bluebirds fly? Yeah. Okay, go bluebirds. And track how you're doing it. Earlier on in the previous lesson, I said something about the pelvis moving. Notice if you move your pelvis to bring the elbow to the floor. Can you feel the buttocks shifting on the ground over the floor to bring the elbow towards the floor? So for the next few moments, look, where is the pelvis the freest? In which direction of taking your elbow to the floor is the pelvis the freest? Where does it move the most easily? And it might not be a direct path. It could be a circular path. It could be a zigzag path. Wherever you go, that's where you go. Just keep on tracking. Is the pelvis moving freely? Is the pelvis moving freely? Are the hip joints moving freely? And use that left hand for support. So have your left hand on the floor, because having that left hand on the floor does something really special. It's there for a reason. When your hand is on the floor like that, the muscles that are working in your trunk work less, because you can rely on your arm. And muscles that are holding less to support you suddenly become freed up for movement. So we're creating conditions by placing that hand on the floor. You're creating conditions in which your trunk becomes a little bit more available to bring your elbow towards the floor. Without the hand there, the trunk muscles have to work, have to hold you a little bit more firmly. Now, take your elbow as close to the floor as is possible, but don't touch the floor. Don't stay there. Check out your breathing. And now imagine that someone is lightly holding that elbow and is taking your elbow a little bit forward and a little bit towards the ceiling. And then they take you back the same way. So imagine someone lightly holding your elbow and they take you a little bit forward and a little bit up, and then they bring you back. And they take you a little bit forward and a little bit up, and then they bring you back. Just that. This little tiny arc, forward and up, and then a return journey. And if you feel that your pelvis is not free to move, lift your elbow a little bit higher from the ground to start with. Don't go so low. And think that your elbow is leading your whole spine into that movement. That it's not just the movement of your shoulders, but somehow that movement is going from the arm, through the shoulders, into the spine, to your pelvis. Let that be, please, and once again rest yourself. So there is this conundrum that we face. How do you do what you don't know how to do yet? That's the conundrum, because that is exactly what learning is. Learning is being able to do that which you can't do yet. Exercising is doing that which you already know to do. You just do more of it. That's exercising. Learning is creating a new response, a new way of acting in regards to an instruction, your intention, some situation in the world. Very different. New response. Please pay attention to your breathing, to the in-breath, to the out-breath. Notice how that changes your shape. You're a different shape when you breathe in, you're a different shape when you breathe out. You're a different volume when you breathe in, you're a different volume when you breathe out. Once more, bring yourself to sitting in that asymmetrical position. Place your right arm behind your head. Contact some part of the left side of your face And make sure that you're comfortable there. Place your left hand on the floor and start to take your elbow towards the floor. And when you feel that moment that it stops being easy, don't go any further. So what is that sensation of the cessation of ease? What does that feel like for something not to be easy? How quickly do you recognize it? The sooner you recognize it, the quicker you can not go there. And I'm not talking about, oh, well, it's 50% easy. I'm talking about 100% easy. And if you go really fast, you'll overshoot the mark so quickly you won't even know you've gone past it. Sorry, officer, did I go through a red light? I was going too fast to notice. Yeah. That wasn't my joke for the week. I wouldn't know anything about going through red lights. Now, go to that place where you know it's easy, and then imagine your best friend's hands on your elbow, and they lead you a little bit forward, and as they lead you forward, they go a little bit up. So it's like going up a slippery slide, not down a slippery slide, and then just return journey. And notice how more able you are to do that when you're working from a place of ease. This is one of the tricks, this is one of the magic tricks to finding new ways of doing things. This is what people find so unbelievable, that you can learn something different without creating effort. No effort, just ease. That is so non-our culture. Yeah, it goes so against the grain of our culture, it's hard to believe. And here I am indoctrinating you. Hey, let's be upfront. You're paying for it. Yeah, no, really. A really essential principle. A learning principle. Create a situation where you feel there's possibility. That's the learning principle. Create a situation where you feel there's possibility. That's what the ease is about. Now, if you're starting to get a sense of how this works, make it a little bit bigger. Look for the new limit of ease. So you're no longer operating always in the same boundary. The boundary is dynamic. It changes moment by moment. That's why your attention is so important. That's why staying clear in your focus is so important, because as things change, so do you. That's nice. That's nice. That's nice. And you'll notice that when you start to make that arc, you begin to feel movement in the hip joint and in the pelvis. Now come upright. And just form the idea that you want to touch your elbow to the ground, and see how far you can go with ease now after doing that. And if you could touch the ground before, is it Are you touching the ground, shaping yourself differently now? Are you rounder than you were before? You look rounder than you were before. Hmm. Hmm. Good question. Yeah. Just, can you stop a moment, please, everybody? May I share that question? Yep. No, that's why I wanted to share the question. You see, when I use the word somewhere on the ground in front of you, it's a deliberate instruction so that you don't go for one spot. Because sometimes when you teach your ATM classes, you'll see that people go to the same spot over and over and over again. And the point is, there might be another spot that if you went to that spot, it'd be absolutely 100% fine. But they keep going there, and they don't know why they're going there. They just go there. Maybe someone told them they should go there. Maybe they've trained in a particular exercise form that takes them there, so they're doing something out of habit. So the instruction, somewhere on the floor in front of you, could be anywhere in that whole zone. How many points are there in that zone? As many as you can differentiate. Probably at least 150. And by the time you visited each one of those 150 points, you'd be so much more different in how you move. That could be the whole lesson in itself, isn't it? So that's why it's a good question, and I wanted everybody to hear the answer. Yeah? Yeah. Thank you. So, just get together with someone next to you, just form a pair, and could you just talk with each other briefly, just briefly, maybe a couple of minutes or so, about what changed for you in that little session that we just